Hey guys, how you doing? It's Henry at Mowers and Blowers. One of the struggles of being a small engine doctor is that, waiting for parts is always the worst part of it, So, I've been waiting to work on this snapper single stage for quite a while, and had to wait a week for this part, While I do carry a lot of the most commonly used carburetors, sometimes you run into something that you don't always work on, so you don't have in stock those parts. So today finally this carburetor came after a week. Can you believe that? A week! This is the carburetor I'm going to use to put into here for that neighbor who insisted on me working on it, and for partial payment he gave me that Toro, which I've fixed up pretty nicely. So it's worth it to me because I'm going to charge him for some labor, and I'm going to get this lawnmower that's worth probably $150, $175. So today I'll be working on this snapper single stage snowblower. Just going to replace the carburetor is all. This carburetor was cleaned through an ultrasonic, and it still runs kind of funny, and it doesn't run well. So I'm just going to replace the carburetor. It's pretty cheap. Hey guys, how you doing? It's Henry from Mowers and Blowers. Got my Toro recycler personal paste going. After a nice fresh paint job around the rusted areas, grinding off the rusted pieces, this thing's working great. Except it's not perfect. I need a bagger. I don't have a bagger, at least one that fits the Toro. But I have a bunch that I can make fit. So I'm just bringing this baby to the backyard. I have 3 or 4 baggers in the shed, and I'm just gonna see if they fit. If they kind of fit, I'm gonna make it fit. Whether I need to fabricate a bar or something like that, because this kind requires the bar, has a bar that clips right here, and this thing goes on top of it. I just need a bagger that's about that height and about that width. I got the key start to work, all just easily recharging the battery. Here, I'm gonna try it right now. Battery's not the strongest battery in the world, but it works. So over here I got a Murray one. It's the hook kind. Got this old one that's not going to work. Here's a Craftsman with those type of hooks. That's not going to work. This is a Ryobi, probably from an electric one. This is too narrow, and it also has those hook kinds. That's not going to work. This is a Black & Decker, also electric, and it also has the hooks. Hooks aren't going to work. This one also has the hooks, right? But it looks like it has this area here where I could actually stick a rod through there. So if this is the right width and the right height, it might work. So I tried a bunch, and looks like one of these could fit, and I could just weld like a bar that goes across, that touches here and here. But you know what, man? It's not a perfect fit, so grass will come out the side and stuff, and that's just not right. You just got to get the right one, and instead of trying to, jerry rig it to fit, it's just not going to be a good fit, not to mention too much trouble anyway, so. Yeah, you try to make things work sometimes, but sometimes if you want to do it right, you just can't compromise, especially with a nice mower like that. So while I have a lot of spare parts and stuff, I don't have that many baggers, it seems like I have a lot of baggers, but, you got to get one that works, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to try to locate a bagger for this. I got time. It's not spring yet. It's still winter. I'm going to pull all this crap away. Taking the carburetor out of the box, you can tell that this is a Chinese copy, of course, otherwise it wouldn't be so cheap. You can tell by how shiny that float bowl is. It's so shiny. It's a good quality, though. I mean, it seems like it, you know. I paid $11 for this. That's a pretty good price. If you notice, you see that small little tiny hole there? Some of these carburetors have holes that you don't even know exist in here, so I'm pretty sure that I missed it in there, and the ultrasonic cleaner didn't get it. So there are intricacies to these stock carburetors that, you know, if you don't work on these so much, and even though I've worked on those, I probably did about 30 of these, you know what I'm saying, but never had a problem except this time. But, you know, there are holes everywhere if you're not too familiar with it, you know. That could be clogged up. Here's a vent hole here. Right there. This is the primer input, and this is the fuel input, right? On this one, fuel leaks out of there. So I know there's something wrong. But getting it out of this box here, as you can see, the choke lever here, it's bent down. I mean, it's not a big deal and all that stuff, but still, you know, you kind of want to contact the seller and say, hey, you know, I didn't get what I paid for. I mean, I could easily just bend this back, but I mean, obviously it was in the box. You know, you could try to juice some money out of those guys, but I probably won't, because this is, you just bend it back again. Not only that, if you look at the way this is configured, right, this is the older style, where that the choke lever, it's a pull to close, where this one is a swing left and right to close. You know what I mean? So even when I do put this on, right, it's probably not going to work, because either I have to make a slit that goes like that, you know what I mean, or just cut this whole panel off here so that this thing will either stick through the slit, or, you know, if I bend it down and then this one out again, I could kind of move the handle down here like that. But I don't think that'll work, you know what I'm saying? Because this thing is above that. So I might have to cut this like that, or just cut a slit here so that I can slide it left and right, you know? So that would be a modification I would have to do. Another suggestion that I had from one of my followers said that I could actually remove the choke flap, which I've done before, remove the shaft and just replace this onto here. But you see, you take a risk of screwing it up and ruining it, and then defeating the entire purpose of changing it, right? Or you can adapt this to fit the lever, you know. I'll see what I can do. I'm going to go on a toilet and ponder the options. So first thing we got to do to remove this carburetor is take these bolts off, these two nuts off that hold the carburetor onto the engine block. There's like literally no space in there to get in there, you know. I had difficulty doing this earlier. As you could see, you can't get an impact in there because it is such that it blocks. You can't stick it in there, you know. Using a wrench, this is in the way, that's in the way, this screw is in the way. There's no way you can get it in there. Even if you did get it in there, you couldn't turn it, you know. So, really difficult, you know. And I can't even tell you how difficult it is to get it in there either, you know. There's no room to even move, you know. So you almost have to put it in like that, you know. But you got to get it loose first. I'm gonna take this hose clamp off and get that fuel line off. Try to rotate this. You want to be careful with this because you don't want to break the hose. So, you know, I'll work that off. After I remove the fuel line. I actually had some better room to now move it around. I got that nut off. Here I've ended up loosening it, and the only way to get it off is with your fingers. One over here, one over here. It's tightening it and loosening it that is the difficult part of it. If I let go, I'll drop it somewhere. So now, as you can see, here's the choke lever, and it's clipped onto this thing. I'm just going to try to loosen it up. Ow! You guys know how that feels? Now loosen the Z-bend over there. There's the governor linkage with the Z-bend attached to the only hole that's there, so you know it's right there. I'm going to take the primer hose off the primer hose input. So there it is. There's the carburetor. So this part here is just loose like that. I'm going to take this spring off and connect it to the new one. But first, I'm going to see how viable it is for me to remove this shaft. So you see that screw there holds the choke plate onto the shaft, right? That prevents this shaft from moving forward, moving off. From the top, it comes off, I hope. So I'm going to loosen that screw there, get the choke plate off, and see if this shaft comes off easily. And I'll put this shaft onto the new one. Here's the old one, here's the new one. The new one has this form of choke lever, right? This old one has this choke lever connected to this form of a pull-push type of thing. This is the new carburetor. I'm going to try to put this shaft onto this carburetor. I was able to take the screw and the choke plate off of here. As you can see, the shaft comes right off. And the new butterfly flap and the new shaft comes right off. I'm just going to replace it. That worked out well. Put the old shaft on the new carburetor using the new flap and the new screw. So guess what though? Got a problem here. See this little spring mechanism here? It's not even touching this shaft. So there's no tension put on it. It's just free and loose here like that. However, there is a hole drilled over here where this one can go. If you look at this one here, notice comparison. This springy thing is there. I have to move this one to that hole so that it touches this to catch it, to give it tension. I don't even know if this thing comes off, but I'm gonna try. Basically, I just cut it out of there and used some needle nose pliers and stuck it in there, screwed it in there actually. So now it makes contact and there's tension. See? That'll work. So, we got this original as possible. I guess the only thing left to do is just replace it. throttle linkage correct. And there we go. Original choke lever, adapted to fit on the new carburetor. I'm going to tighten the bolts now. The spring over here can be adjusted for tension. See? You can just basically take some needle nose pliers and bend this to make it tighter or looser. And tighten up the bolts. Then replace the primer hose and the fuel line. To get it tight as possible, you have to try to do things with your wrench. Like that. Just get enough leverage. I just connected the primer hose. The old primer hose felt like there was an obstruction. I couldn't even push the thing down without, it feeling resistance. Now look. Now there's no obstruction for the primer. And now I'm going to finishing this off by putting the hose clamp back onto the fuel line. And that should be it. Haven't made any adjustments yet to it. Just simply adapted the choke flap to work on the original lever, right? Got that on tight. Remember, we can adjust that spring tension if we want to later, if it runs too slow or too fast in RPMs. Everything looks good. I guess I'm gonna make sure it has enough fuel. I'm gonna give it a try. There's fuel in there now. Give it a primer and give it a pull. As you can see, the ignition switch wouldn't shut off, so I had to put the choke just to shut it off, So I took the ignition switch out, and there's a lot of corrosion there. It has to have a nice solid ground for it to, shut off properly. I'm going to take a wired bristle brush and just brush that off a little bit so that's a better ground contact to this metal surface, and also the contact between the wire that goes to the magneto to this kill switch. contacts have to be good. As you can see, there's a lot of corrosion in between there and rust. See that? Just taking the screw off loose. Look at all the corrosion in between. It was so gummy. So even though I had cleaned up all the contacts and stuff like that, it still didn't work. So, and then wouldn't you know it, the guy that I'm fixing it for drives by, hears it on, and he's like, oh my God, it still works, it works, fantastic. And then I had to put it to choke to shut it off, and he's like, oh yeah, you gotta put it to choke to shut it off. I said, you mean you knew the ignition switch was busted? He's like, yeah. I said, oh, well I just spent like 15-20 minutes trying to clean out the contacts to get it to ground. I wish you would have told me that you knew it didn't work. He's like, oh, sorry. Whatever, you know. Ignition switch is not expensive, but I know this guy's not going to want to pay for it, you know. But this baby runs now, runs well, you know. And I'm just going to leave it on the side of the house here, and told him to leave $100 in my mailbox. Because that's how much I'm charging the dude, you know what I mean? Hey. Like I said, I don't work on other people's stuff. If he wants me to work on it, he's going to have to pay me. Know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, so that was my carburetor replacement for this 37-year-old snapper single-stage snowblower. You know what, man? You can't say anything bad about these snappers. So many years and it still runs well. All it needed was a new carburetor, you know? See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers. Thanks for watching, everybody. Follow me on Instagram at Mowers Blowers.